Raise your hand if you've ever been busy. Raise your hand if you've ever got tired and feel like you just need a couple days off. Most people would have both hands up right now. That's our world, fast-paced and income-driven. That's why we get caught up in our own lives so often, and that's why it's understandable when most people don't focus on worries that aren't their own. So what makes someone become a humanitarian? Someone whose whole life focuses on the welfare of other humans.
When you go back and you see kids that were living on the streets, kids had no structure, they had no routine, people who had nothing, they didn't have meals. When you see that they're all of a sudden they're waking up, they have structure, they have something to do, they have a meal in their belly, their life changes completely. They like I said, their self-esteem changes, their self-worth, their ability to know who they are in the world and what they have the potential of becoming, you know, to give that hope, to give that dream, and then to watch people actually use that to do good for themselves and others it's amazing. It becomes an addiction.
And with Serena's help, we'll find the meaning of life to a humanitarian.
Good morning, Miss Barbara J. Beckley. How are you doing this morning?
Good morning, Barbara Ellison. How are you doing?
I am doing very well. I am doing very well. It is a beautiful day here in Chicagoland, so it all is right with the world, right?
Yeah, you know, when you said that, I was about to sing, "It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood." Beautiful day.
And this is this is the Time to Shine Happiness show. And by the way, welcome everybody to the Time to Shine Happiness show. The thing is that so many people don't realize that every morning in any given moment they have the ability to choose. So I'm going to tell on myself of yesterday.
Uh-oh.
Yesterday morning I was lying in bed and I just didn't want to get up. I just didn't. I was just feeling kind of like yeah. And then it was like, okay, Barbara, you know already that you are not going to stay in bed all day because you have things to do. So are you either going to get up and mope right at this moment and feel mopey, or are you going to get up with enthusiasm? To tell you the truth, I had to think about it for a second.
I was going to ask you. I was going to say.
I had to think about it for a second. And then it was like, oh, for heaven's sakes, Barbara, this is what you teach people. It is your choice. So right now, what are you going to do? And it was like, all right, you know what? I choose every day to be happy. Well, yesterday it was a little bit harder to choose. However, it does come back to it is a choice.
Yeah.
So, and one of the things, and I was telling a friend of mine about it, and I said, and plus I was on a podcast yesterday and we were talking about it. And she said, well, at least, and you chose. And I said, yeah. I said, one of the things she said, I'm so glad you said that because sometimes it is harder to choose. And she said, oh, that must have been for me today too. And I said, exactly. Sometimes the things that we talk about on this show and on other shows that we're on are things that we have to work on for ourselves.
Yeah.
Life is not always a bowl of cherries just because we talk about happiness. Sometimes it is a choice.
Well, you know what? I'm going to do this. I'm doing this to you because and everybody else, because we're human.
We are
And
human.
I'm glad that you said that, because sometimes you can get so into, oh, everything's a Lord, lots of chocolates, and da, 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 da. And we know that some days is not like
It's
that,
not.
or it's not going to be that easy just to go into that mode real quickly sometimes. I mean, I was that a few days ago, what you're talking about. But, you know, I chose to stay in the bed even longer.
Right. And that's a choice too.
I was like, I'm just, you know,
That's the thing.
Yeah. And it's okay.
And
I only just say to people, and I think you might think the same too, Barbara, is you just want to stay there too long.
Right.
Because then you can start going into another,
Well, then you start spiraling down. And then you start thinking of, oh, well, I should have done this. And then once you ask that next question, it usually comes out as the what's wrong with me that. And then that's when it starts going down. That's when you have to turn it around and say, okay, right now I have the choice to be mopey or to be enthusiastic.
And how long will the mopey? Yeah, because you got to put a base. You know how we always say have some boundaries in your life. You know, talking about self-care and having those boundaries.
Yep, exactly.
Well, you have to have a boundary even with that, because you want to make sure you don't go down that slope. Because I've been there too. I mean, I've been to the point where it's been some days, weeks, and months that I was trying to get I was in this I don't know, it was a funk, and it was a long one. And I said, okay, somewhere this has to give now. This has been going on a little bit too long.
There's too long. Exactly. And we all have those seasons in our lives. I can remember back, 20 years ago of being in such a funk that it lasted months. Didn't realize that I was causing it myself.
That's what we do.
I was causing my own funk because I was thinking of all the things that weren't happening in my life that I thought should be.
Yeah. Ooh, you hit it. Yes, Barbara.
Oh.
Same. Oh, yeah. And I was like, well, what? And I kept asking myself, like, is it this? Is it that? You know, like you see, you trying to hit where it was. And like you said, I came to the conclusion it was me.
It was me.
I was like, this is me.
Right. I'm choosing to feel this way. I can now look back on it and go, oh, brother Barbara, yeah, you actually chose that for 8 months. You chose it. I can see it now. At the time, it was everything else around me that was wrong.
Yeah.
Well, I was the only common denominator in all of the situations that I was in. And it's like, but I can look back at it now and laugh. Yeah. But at the time, I didn't see it because you didn't know. And that's why personal growth and why shows like ours, and I'm going to brag on us for just a small moment, why shows like ours are so important. Because personal growth is absolutely the best thing that you're going to do for yourself. Yesterday, I was listening to Jim Rohn. And, and I think most of us that are in personal development know who Jim Rohn is, but he was back in the day, like back in the 60s and the 70s. And he was talking and it turned out to be the last interview that he ever did. And he was talking about that he was doing, when he was on the road with Zig Ziglar and Norman Vincent Peale. And I'm like, oh,
the big
icons of development. But he said one of his first things, there was like 40 people at it. And it was kind of like more like a lunch and learn. He didn't even get paid for it. And yet now he became absolutely one of the fathers of personal development and making people realize how important it is. So that led me to think, well, just how big is this? How big is personal development? Well, in 2019, you know me, I like little statistics. 2019, how many, I'm going to give you a hint, billions of dollars were spent on personal development when it first kind of,
I like how you gave me a hint. you someone help you out this morning, Barbara. Billions. Let's see. I would say maybe 35 billion.
Okay, well, no, you were a little over. You were over, but that's where it's going to be.
Oh,
In
okay.
2019, it was at $11 billion
Okay.
dollars. In 2021, it was at $11.5 billion. But now they're saying in the next 3 to 4 years, it's going to hit at least 14 billion. So now double
Wow.
that, that how fast it's growing. It's
Yes.
not going to be long before it hits $35 billion because people are realizing, people and companies. I am
Mm.
so excited to hear that companies are spending money, putting it into their coffers to spend
Mhm.
money on personal development for their employees. Because you
Mhm.
know what? When you have have a happy employee, they take less time off work for sick, they don't call in sick, and they're much more productive. And just even if they only focus on 3 small, and they're small areas, but they're huge areas. I mean,
Mhm.
because it's the law of polarity. There's small and there's the big of it, but mental growth, how you think and learn. Well, how are
Mhm.
your employees going to think and learn?
Mhm.
Absolutely. So, but one of the things that they're teaching now is how to engage with other people. One of my favorite sayings is we can't do life on our own.
No, you have to. I mean, we're all around here. It's not like you
We're
can
all around it.
get
We
rid of
have
people.
we have to know how to engage with other people. So one
Yeah.
of the things that you can do is just ask, how many times have you said something to somebody, even just asking them how they are, and they give you a one-word answer?
Mm. Yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
well, there's no dialogue there with one-word answers. So the next time somebody asks you a question, and you are in the habit of giving a one-word answer,
Mhm.
think of a question that you could ask back. Oh, give your answer and then say, well, what do you think of that?
Mm.
Because
Okay.
it starts a dialogue, and try to always make it something positive. Because don't reply with a negative to a negative.
And because
And
that's it's like
and yet
it's
on the
really a
other
bad
hand,
day today. They can say it's really a bad day today. You know what? You're right, Barbara. It is a horrible day. I hate this day. I woke up this morning. I didn't feel. See, you see how that just went down there.
that adds to it. But if somebody does say that to you, oh, it has just been an awful day. Well, you can come back to them and say, "Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that. What do you think has made it so bad? How do you think you could change? How do you think you could change that? What do you think about changing that?"
Barbara, I popped in my head when you said that. I
What?
was like, going back home.
Yeah, go back home, whatever it is, but it starts the dialogue because then you can go back and forth. But when you
Yeah.
only give a one-word answer, there's nowhere to go. And
Well,
that comes into, the social growth.
Well, yeah,
And
you're right. And then another thing is to add to what you're saying, Barbara, is another. I tell people because I fell into this trap too, and I
we all
noticed
do.
it. I'm telling on myself, like you always say, let me tell on myself, right?
Yep.
So there's been times when people, and you probably got this too, where somebody would ask, "How you doing, Barbara?" And then you come back and you say, "I'm good. How you doing?"
Right.
So you just kind of just cut it real quick, go right to them.
Mhm. Yeah.
So sometimes I've been messing with people now. So when I was like, "How are you doing?" And they're like, "I'm doing fine. How are you?" I said, "How fine are you? Are you like fine? Are you fine?
Yes,
Are you fine?" And they're like, "I'm fine."
I'm
I'm like,
fine.
"Well, how kind of fine?"
Right.
Because now I'm trying to get them to really, like you said, talk instead of just saying it real quickly so you can get back to me and get it off of them. Because I feel like a lot of times that's what we do.
Right.
We reflect back. We're like, okay, I really don't want to say. Maybe I don't feel like talking
Mhm.
that much, or I don't feel like really tell you my day
Mhm.
is going. So I'll just say I'm fine. Just get back to you. Have you
Right.
noticed that sometimes people do that? I mean, I
Oh,
haven't done. Just
absolutely. And there's a difference between I truly believe that there is a difference between inviting a pity party, which
Mhm.
you don't wanna do, and
Mhm.
yet absolutely airing something that you need support with.
Yeah. That's good.
There is a difference there. So if you really need support with something, absolutely reach out. It's the best thing you can do for yourself, because that comes into your mental growth. And one of the things too is that if you hear somebody else's opinion on something that's happening in your life, gee, oh, I never thought of it that way. And it opens up other possibilities, because we tend to only think the way we think because we've been conditioned to do that through our social norm, through our upbringing, through the teaching, through school, everything. We have kind of been conditioned to think a certain way, depending on our family, like whether you were born in the city, whether you were born on a farm, whether you were born, doesn't, all of those things, whether you went to a one-room school or you went to a high school where nobody knew you and you could hide.
Yeah, you're so true. One thing that I noticed with myself, when you're talking about, different background, different upbringing, different surroundings, one thing that I really thank my parents for, until I got to my teenage years, there's a reason for that. Because when I was going to school, like, just regular, like they call it grammar school or grade school, I went to a school that was a magnet school in Chicago, where basically they were getting children from all over. I mean, it was either, bad side of town, the wonderful side of town, the rich town, the middle class, and all different cultures. So we would all come together, and I love that because I got a chance to meet not only that's just seeing me, what I mean by seeing me, just seeing as a Black little girl, but I see everybody, and I had the best friends in different cultures, and it was so cool. It was so cool because I got a chance to know them, go to their house. I mean, we were like close friends. The thing of it is, though, when I finally graduated and stuff, and see, this is where the divorce family comes in attack, because my mother and father got divorced. I had one. She wanted me to stay with her. I want to stay with my dad because I was going to go to high school and I was going to have that same culture because we were. Well, I moved with my mother. We moved to the south side of Chicago, and it was mostly 98% Black African Americans.
Right.
And I had to go to high school. It was 95% of that. And I was so sad. I was so sad, Barbara, because I was like, I feel like I was in a different, like, okay, I don't supposed to be here. I think they dropped me off in the wrong school. Back to where I'm used to doing, right? Even to the point where I was getting talked about because they would say things like, you act different and you don't act like, and I was like, oh my God, you don't talk a certain way. And it's like, talk too professional or whatever. And I was like, I'm talking the way that I usually talk. I don't know what you're talking. So saying all that, I'm bringing all that because that, like you just said, going back to what you said, it does make a difference, how you grow up and how you when you get older. And I made sure, Barbara, as soon as I got out of high school, I went back to what I was used to. When I went to college and stuff, I was like, no, we ain't doing this. We're going back to what I'm used to. And that's all cultures, and everybody around me were loving each other. I mean, well, that's what I wanted to love each other.
Because that's how the world is.
Yeah.
So let's embrace it.
And see, it goes the opposite too, because I know some people that are like in corporate now, will be working corporate, and they said they were only, they grew up in the suburbs where they said, I hate to say it, Barbara, it was like majority, it was like 90% Caucasian, and there's a few, here and there, and they had to get used to when they got to college, they said, or even when they got into corporate, they started really understanding all the different cultures and really embracing it. Like it should have been a long time ago. So, just put a call out to everybody is that please, when you're raising your children, make sure if you can, hopefully neighborhoods, because some neighborhoods are still like that, that they can put you in schools that is, all, cultures and races. So you can get a chance, because that's the world, that's exactly what we live in. It's not, we're not like all in this one, it's the world. Yeah.
You know, and that's one of the things for me. I mean, just all the craziness that went on, a few years ago. I won't even mention the name anymore. Quit mentioning the name.
I
Quit
know.
mentioning the name. Don't give it credence. It happened, but for me, I call it the craziness.
Yeah.
But
Crazy.
out of that came so many multicultural things that we can now take advantage of. So
Yeah.
take advantage of them. There
Yeah.
are shows out there from all over the world. A friend of mine just did a conference for young entrepreneurs in Nigeria.
Ooh.
She lives
Okay.
in Texas,
Wow.
but she was able to do a seminar for young emerging entrepreneurs in Nigeria.
Yeah.
Wow.
See, that's
You
yeah.
know, that's the kind of things that we should embrace.
Yeah.
To
It is.
learn about other cultures, and we ourselves, but they were so open to her coming.
Mm-hmm.
Where is the ones coming back from
Mm.
these emerging nations? Where
Yeah.
are we giving them opportunity to teach us?
Yes. That's good. That's good. I like that. I like
And
that.
we because learning is a two-way
Both
street.
ways. Yeah,
It
it goes
takes
both
two to
ways.
learn. You need a student and you need a teacher.
Yes.
So let's embrace the different teaching.
Yes.
You don't
Yeah.
have to agree with it. Like for me, like sometimes I'll listen to something and go, yeah,
Yeah.
no, that's not
Yeah.
for
Oh
me.
yeah. I've been there too. It's like,
Yeah, no. You and I have had that happen to us even on this show. It's like,
mm,
yeah, no, that's not something that we're no, not the direction that we're going to go in. And
yeah.
that's okay. But at least we
Mhm.
know it's out there. And
Yes.
if
And we know about it, and
we know about it, so we won't be blindsided about it.
Mhm. Yeah.
And I think that's one of the biggest things is be aware.
Yeah.
Be aware of other things. If because when we stay only in our own little
That
tunnel
yeah,
vision,
that doesn't
you don't see any because there might be something good out there that, oh wow. Oh gee, oh, I could use that in mine.
yeah, you might be missing out on something.
You might be missing out on something that will just be the one thing that's going to revolutionize your
Yeah.
life or your business or your mindset or whatever it is. It could be that one small piece of information. So
Yeah.
always be open to pieces of
Mhm.
information, no matter where they come from.
Yeah. And
Mm,
I always tell people I learn from everybody. And some
yep.
people say, I don't learn from everybody, but I don't know what you're talking about. Some people, I said, that's the truth. That's what I'm saying. I learn from everybody things what to do, maybe things what not to do.
Or not to do.
That was a learning experience. I thought it was really powerful. I'm glad you brought that up, Barbara, about, we both, kind of seen something here on the show where we both were
Right.
like, and, for a minute, I was like, okay, I'm just going to be, like you said, open and telling on myself. I love when you
Yeah.
say that. I say that
Yeah.
too. Is when I was a little bit nervous to mention it to you because I didn't want you to get upset.
Yeah.
Because,
No.
I love you, I adore you. And I'm like, okay, if I mention this, she's going to be like, Barbara, da, 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 da. And then, some told me, Barbara, you and Barbara know each other too long. What are you
Mhm.
talking about? I mean, you two can communicate. And I
Right.
said, yeah, what am I doing? So when we had that conversation, you opened it. I mean, you thought about it. We talked about it. And that's what
Mhm.
I'm talking about. Communication is a key.
Right.
That's why I'm bringing this up. And it was so powerful. And I loved how we were able to talk about it.
Mhm.
And even if it was a disagreement, we still
Sure.
was able to talk about. I mean, we didn't have no disagreement on it, but I'm just saying,
Mm-mm.
if it did happen, we were still able to talk to, to even say to the point. Sometime I agree to disagree.
Right.
You
Right.
know,
That
and
you
but I
can agree
still
to disagree.
and I appreciate you, and I totally respect you on what you stand on, and that's what we need to start looking at instead of getting into that. Not saying nothing or getting into this
Right.
back and forth. It's like, really, it's not,
Right.
yeah, yeah,
We'll leave it at this for a second. Is that because if you don't say something about something that's bothering you,
Mhm.
then it just stays as
It
bothering
festers.
you, and then
It
it
festers.
festers.
Yeah.
If you can have when you have an honest conversation about something that, okay, let's see what your viewpoint is. Okay, so let's see what my viewpoint is. Let's use us as an example. I can say to you, well, gee, Barbara, why do you think you feel that way? You said to me at the time, well, why do you think you feel that way? And then we realized that we were saying it slightly different, but we were feeling the same way. Oh, wow. Who knew? So that's what it is, so important to ask questions and then be willing to listen to the
Yes.
answer.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
Because a lot of times, like you said, Barbara, once people start talking and you're listening, like you said, listening,
Listening.
then you understand maybe the backstory on why a person
Why?
feels that way or thinks that way or even did something a certain way, is because, I mean, I found out so many times when I hear people's stories, and I had to go back even to my mother before she passed away,
Right.
because we had this different relationship. Let's just say that I loved her
Right.
dearly, but we had a different relationship.
Right.
And when I finally, after all the years passed, and she told me what she went through when she was younger,
And she was young.
and she learned some things. She was just going by what she learned from
Right.
her parents or whoever,
Right.
and it just brought on in my lifetime. And I was like, oh my God, I didn't
Right.
realize.
Right.
It was just like I don't know, it was just like this opening in my mind to say, okay, now I get it. And I'm not saying that we sit there and say, okay, we give them a reason to act the way they act.
Right. Nope.
We're just understanding why.
Right. What brought them to that point?
Yeah, and give some grace somewhere. That's what I say.
Okay.
So it's very important. Like I said, communication, not just all that.
Mhm.
Sometimes you could do, and then you're not hearing anything because you're so ready. And I know we've been there, and people have to admit it. You be talking to somebody, and you're waiting for them to be quiet so you can say what you have to say. And I'm like, okay, it's not about you sometimes. Sometimes you just need to just sit there and listen to what they're saying. And then, you can respond better. Because if you're just like, well, I just can't wait for Barbara Ellis to be quiet so I can say what I have to say. No,
Mhm.
it's not
Mhm.
no. You need to listen to what Barbara Ellis is saying so you can understand and basically talk back the way you need to about the situation. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. And there's because there's two sides to every story. Like one of the things that I always teach is the law of polarity. There's soft and hard, there's black and white, there's hot and cold. Well, there's two sides to every story. So let's see let's see how we can have communication and meet in the middle.
Yes. And while we're talking about meeting in the middle, we're going to meet somebody that's amazing. Another queen coming on, Lauren Bess.
Lauren Bess. Yeah.
So Barbara, if you do a quick introduction, and then we're going to go to our sponsor and then bring her on.
Yeah, I love it. I always say, and I feel like sometimes I say the same thing all the time. I love having conversations with great people. And when somebody and I have a great conversation, my first thing is, oh, I need to have you on my show. And Lauren was one of those conversations. And it just, like attracts like. And I think her message is just so important of what we're talking about now, of personal growth, of making the world a better place.
Yes.
And it's such an important thing. So yeah,
Yes.
absolutely.
Well,
So it'll
we're
be
going
a great conversation.
You always bring on the best, I'm telling you. So we're going to bring on this queen. As soon as we hear from our sponsor, we'll be right back.
When you do nothing, nothing happens. Best time to take action is now. This is the time to work on you and your business. So I've created a group, an online academy for professionals and entrepreneurs. Power Partners will help you to start helping yourself.
Helped me change my life and my business.
Not a Toastmasters, it's not a BNI, it's not any of these, but it is. So it's all this stuff in one place.
Get the results that you deserve right now. So what are you waiting for? Let's make it happen. See you in Power Partners.
Hi.
How are you doing this morning? Welcome to the show.
Good. Thank you so much. I'm so excited. The energy is just like, oh, it's oozing through the screen. I'm so happy to be here.
Yay. Oh yeah, it's just so fun when you have like minds that come together.
Yeah. Absolutely. It's where the conversation takes you to places that you hadn't imagined yourself, right? It's like those moments that you get to have even more aha moments or just like things to ponder on. And it just, it's always magic.
Yeah, and what we were talking about in the first part, because you never know somebody else's opinion. And, oh, I love when I can say, oh, I never thought of it that way.
Yeah, aha moments. Yeah.
Aha moment.
It's so good.
Well, Lauren, it's so nice to meet you. I know you and Barbara have been talking, and she's been talking about you in a such a good way, a wonderful way. But it's nice to when she talks about people that are just just open-minded and just loves life and wants to help others. I'm like, yeah, bring them on, bring them on, bring them on. So I'm so glad that you're here. It's the Time to Shine Happiness show. And I feel like we're family already. So, and I want you to feel that way too. So we're just gonna,
I feel it.
Yeah. So before you start, where are you from?
I'm from Winnipeg, Canada. So the very center of Canada, actually. So yeah, we're expecting snow this week already.
Oh no!
Who aren't living in super winter climates, it should be fun.
Oh wow, yeah. I mean, I'm in Wisconsin, but I've been kind of like being quiet because anytime around Wisconsin, and Barbara knows this too, it can snow. One day could be 9 degrees, next day it's like a snowstorm. We got 12 inches of snow, so yeah.
It's supposed to hit 80 degrees here today.
Oh, you're getting 80? Wow.
It's supposed to hit 80. I'm like, you're kidding. And now next week it'll be snow probably.
That's what I'm saying. It's like,
who knows? It'll be a surprise.
Yeah, I just hope so. Like, oh.
Yeah.
But Lauren, I was going to ask you because Barbara always knows this. I always like to peel the curtain behind and see how you started and what you do. That got you to this point of being this brilliant expert in your expertise.
Thank you.
So if you can just share a little of that with us.
Yeah, absolutely. It's pretty wild. I mean, I've been creating and designing my own business for probably since beginning of 2021, and it feels like it's still the beginning, right? It feels like I'm just getting to this place now where I'm really noticing and feeling the magic happening, because when I started, it was kind of birthed out of this, COVID fear. And like I had ended up back in Canada very unexpectedly. I was living overseas in Singapore, and after being in a very long lockdown there, returned back to Canada, really surprised at just like I didn't really realize how deep I was in this state of fear. And even looking back now, I'm like, I had no clue, but I was like deep in survival mode. My nervous system was a wreck. I didn't really have like all those tools and language to understand that. And also coming into a place where I was safe and had this refuge in my family home, and was able to just, come back and not have to worry about what's next, like work-wise, financially, was this privilege that I had. So it was really difficult for me too, to not feel like, oh, poor me, or like I'm not doing well, or these things that I've been through did rock me. And maybe because I have, these resources and these privilege that I should be just going back into the workforce, and I should be able to figure this out quite quickly. And I started applying for jobs. I would get some interviews there, just like energetically. I was like, no, thank you. I remember thinking, my goodness, I am so afraid to have to go back to a workplace where perhaps there is toxicity, because that's what I came from. Perhaps there will be this control over my energy and time, because I didn't know how to really like set boundaries, and I didn't know how to advocate for myself without getting in trouble, because that was what had happened to me. And so I thought, okay, this is the chance I have now to design my own business. And I always thought maybe one day I would, design my own business, be a business owner. In my previous work, I was working as a business transformation specialist and service designer, and helping businesses and organizations do just that, right? So I thought this okay, this will be a piece of cake. Like, surely this is what's meant to come next for me. And boy, was I wrong. I was like going in circles and circles and circles, and my limiting beliefs, like I just had no idea how many stories that I had so deeply embedded in my subconscious mind that were telling me I'm not good enough, and I shouldn't use my voice because it'll get me in trouble. And, you know, I don't have much depth to me, or what I have to share with the world doesn't have that much value. Like, why me? Right. And so it was like it was keeping me in the circle of just like not really being able to come on a show like this, or even think that was something I could do, even though I had used my voice in my work in the past, or I had always loved talking to people. That has always been, like, since I was young, just something I love to do. And so it took a lot of, you know, not deconditioning from those ideas and those experiences and other people's stories. And it was in this parallel, right, of designing my own business, figuring out who I was as a person, but also realizing like my identity keep changing because I'm growing. Like, I'm not going to be the same person I was when I first came back to Canada, or I was 2 years before that, or even who I was like 2 weeks ago, because my work is continuously growing, right?
Continuously growing.
Yeah, it's when I found I was doing I joined my first coaching program, a beautiful business group, and I remember my first coach saying to me, this first year of business is like 10 years of therapy. And I just like really didn't know what that would unravel. And I needed that extra support. And so I started seeing a hypnotherapist, and I was already coaching a few solopreneurs at the time, and just really getting my feet wet, just trying to figure out like, what is it that I'm doing? Like, how can I really make a impact here? And so I realized that I was struggling. So I started to see a hypnotherapist, and she's who trained me to be a certified hypnotherapist. And it was one of those first big, scary yeses that was also exciting, that, you know, as I was still spiraling myself, I knew in my body and my heart and everything, like I had to say yes. And now I'm like, holy smokes, if I hadn't, like, of course, you know, I was about to say, if I hadn't said yes to this, I don't know where I'd be. But of course, I was meant to say yes to this, is now what I realize. And I was meant to get to that place, and I was meant to do this. So it's really cool to feel that belief and not just like hope for that belief, because now it's my reality and I love it. So
yes. Oh, yes. I'm so glad you didn't listen to those other things you were saying. Like, I don't know if I can do this. I'm like, get that out of there. And look at where you're at now, Queen. You're that's amazing.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah. And just the impact that you can have in the world. That's why like I always give Barb Beckley, you know, my cohort here, of kudos for starting this network.
Right. It's incredible, but you can, I think that's the power of it. Like, even though I work individually with folks for one-on-one hypnosis or coaching, like the magic of these groups, and like, even if it's a small group that I have, it's just like, whoa, like I can feel the energy right now. Right. It's like, just so you like, although we're so different, and although we've been through such different things, when you have these people who are just open to learning about themselves at whatever stage that is, or are ready to open their hearts, or have opened their hearts, whatever that may be, like there can be so many parallels, like that we, or overlaps that we experience, that maybe we wouldn't have realized if we hadn't been together with these people that we maybe wouldn't have ever met in that, like a regular world, right? Of just continuing on in our regular workplace before, you know, putting ourselves in this vulnerable space where we want to, you know, expand who we are and open ourselves up. So it's just beautiful that you create space for that, because it's so needed. And even for people who are like, I'm already part of a group, like, I think I'm a part of like 6 or something, you know, like keep meeting people and keep like putting yourself out there and connecting, because you never know who you'll meet, and you'll never know like how your souls speak to each other too, right? Because it is so profound.
I'm glad you said that, Lauren, because I always say that to people. I'm like, you never know if you're going to meet your, you know, a collaborator with you, or a best friend. It might be a best friend or just somebody that can maybe even invest in your business, or you can invest in theirs. So you never know who you're going to meet that's going to be that pivotal point in your life. So don't keep yourself away, because you're kind of closing the door on yourself, because you're not, getting a chance to meet the people in your orbit that is just, part of what you're supposed to be doing, especially like-minded people like ourselves. So yeah, definitely. I'm glad that we met, because I wouldn't knew you unless I didn't know Barbara. See how all that connects,
Right?
All the dots. That's like one of the things that I work with my clients is, let's visualize your future you.
Mm-hmm.
Your future you can be tomorrow,
Mm-hmm.
5 years from now, 10 years from now. So how do you want your future you to be, to
Yeah.
respond, to become, to
Mm-hmm.
grow into?
Mm-hmm.
And when you are realizing your future you, well, it starts today
Yeah.
to get to
Exactly.
that, to get there.
Yeah.
But we need all the people. And one of the things I just wanted to circle back slightly, Lauren, when you said vulnerable position, we have to be vulnerable about
Mm-hmm.
who we are now, what we're struggling with now,
Mm.
without feeling shame. Or, I mean, that is the basis of so much growth, getting past that, because
Yeah.
we've all got things that we don't want to have broadcasted from from the rooftops. Absolutely. However, we've all had things that we want to share and celebrate too.
Yeah.
So let's do that. Let's celebrate and let's support the things that are not quite so good, but let's celebrate the things that are so good.
Oh, yeah. I love that so much. It's so important too, because and what I've been realizing, like, whoa, my work gets to be is this idea of disrupting perfectionism. And there's so many layers to that, and where that stems from societally, historically, and it's just, and even when it comes to like gender as well. And it's really freeing to realize, like, wow, this is something that I get to do that I don't have figured out yet, and that I'm maybe helping other people with, but I'm maybe 2 steps ahead, and that's okay. And I remember hearing from, again, some of my peers and mentors, like, you can do and help people with something even if you're 1 step ahead. Like, don't feel like you have to have it completed or all figured out. But I don't think I really understand. Like, we all have our own way of experiencing what that means and our own pace. And, now I feel like I'm at this place where I'm like, I have become her, and I get to like believe in that. But even a few weeks or months ago, like, that didn't feel the same. And it was still on this, I had felt like I was straddling these 2 ideas. And then I thought, like, wait a minute, what if I just am her? Right? Like, why do I have to keep, and I like what you said, Barbara, as well, about like the black and white and duality and polarity, because for me, a lot of my life, I lived in this world of like extreme duality, of wanting to even like, when it comes to judging others, like classify, are they a good person or a bad person? Like, in my mind, I thought that would make me just be able to understand the world a little bit more, or be able to protect my energy in a way. And what I've had to realize and got to realize, like, things aren't just black and white. Like, there is, and when you said meet in the middle, to me, that's like that is that perfect example of like, this gray area exists, and perhaps it has to exist for us to really understand each other and to really let go of that judgment, and just realize, like, the world can be both, or people can be both, or situations can be both. And like you said, those different sides of the story. But that's like a big thing, I think, that I've been able to overcome that idea, so that it's helping me with that idea of disrupting perfectionism, and giving myself permission to show up in the ways that she would show up, like this most powerful version of me, who I am. So I thank you for saying that, because I think it's really important for people to hear and understand, again, like, there can be both. There is both.
There is both.
Yeah.
There is, yeah. And
Well,
Lauren, I just have to say, I really love your vulnerability. That's one thing I tell people, because that's why I always tell people, ask about their story, their background, because we weren't always where we are now, and we're not
Right.
going to always be where we are now moving forward. And
Mhm.
we need to let people know we're human. I mean, we go through it. Like you said, you were kind of in that. I was too. Believe me, I can't even believe, sometimes I don't believe I'm sitting here on the screen talking to you two right now, because I
Yeah.
was the shyest person. I was the shyest person. I would let people talk for me, which was very bad.
yeah.
I can tell people, don't do that at home. But yeah, I was to that point, and I'm just so glad that, there were people, again, that you meet, that people get the chance to introduce you to say, I see something in you. And when a person says that to you, that is so powerful, because
Mhm.
now they're seeing something in you that's blossoming in their eyes, but you don't see it yet, but they're trying to get you to see it to a certain extent. And that opens you up to say, they really do. What are they, and you get curious, right? And then you start asking yourself, and that's where you morph into yourself as a different person than you were before. So I'm glad that you shared that with us, Lauren, because a lot of people need to hear that, because sometimes people don't go to the next level because they're scared, or they're like, oh, people might think of me a certain way, or they might think, okay, she's not there yet. It's her business. What is she talking about? She's, we all been there. I'm still there sometimes. I still
Yeah.
ask questions. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I love that you said that too, because I think this idea of, starting with hearing, like if someone says to you, I love how vulnerable you are, or I really see this, like this is your superpower. And just being that person who gets to share that with someone, but also hear that, I think is such a, can be that foundation of really building that self-belief. But I think this next step too is like this idea of, how we are human and how we hear both the negative and the positive, and being able to get to a place where we have that self-awareness, where we get to filter out like what is not ours and what is a projection. And that is, I think, this first step that leads us to this place where we don't have to wait for that permission, and that we get to be our own self-permission to believe in ourselves, to say, yeah, this is my superpower, and this is what I get to do with it, and this is how I'm going to share it with the world, and this is how I'm going to allow myself the space to take up more space and to share this gift that I have. And so ultimately, like, there gets to be that journey, right? What's beyond that? I'm sure there's even more amazing things. I'm not there yet. I'm not past it. Like, I am still in this process of, giving myself this self-permission, but also, I love like anyone hearing that external perspective. And I think that still is important when people can really pick out these things, within someone else and say, wow, you're amazing at that, or you're so good at that, right? But it's really cool to, I think, personally experience that evolution, but also get to witness other people in that evolution. I feel like you're giving yourself that permission that you've been waiting for. Like, how freaking amazing is that?
Yeah.
So good.
So with me, I always call it when you see the light bulb go on
Yeah.
and you see it in their eyes, or you hear it in their voice, and they get it for themselves.
Yeah.
Yes. Oof.
That is absolutely a touch of your heart, and
Yes.
you know that you have impacted them. And the thing is, you might never see that person again.
Mm-hmm.
You may never see that person again. You may not work with them. You may not ever talk to them again. And yet in that moment, you know that you have impacted their life.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what it's all about. Yeah.
That's what it's all about.
Now I gotta love on Lauren for a minute right now, because she's been very humble this morning. She's not only a certified hypnotherapist, she's also a writer, she's a speaker, she's a workshop facilitator, she's a podcast host, she's a coach, and the list goes on, Mrs. Celebrity. So yeah, I had to put it out there.
Thank you. It's so fun. And, that's the great part, I think I realized. And this is a good reminder for me too, to be here with both of you, and I think, sometime anyone, right? We can get I don't want to say stuck, but we can like lean into the things that we're doing on a day-to-day basis. And I think everyone can experience this no matter where they're at. You know, sometimes we get to different stages in our work or our businesses where we have that team supporting us, which I do, but it's like sometimes I still get into that, and maybe it's not even this thing of like old habits, but like I love creating, and sometimes that is me sitting at home in my bedroom, like making things on my own. And I think it's these moments in conversation and when we get into these groups where we get to, I think, pull ourselves out of that day to day and really like remind ourselves, oh my gosh, like, because I've been busy in the things, you know, this is actually the step back that I need to realize, like, wow, look at all this magic that I've made, or all these different pieces of my experience that get to be celebrated. So thank you for celebrating me. I want to say thank you so much for that, because it's always a good reminder, right? But it's a good reminder that we get to do that for ourselves too. So I'm going to write some things down for myself after this that you sparked in me to celebrate.
Yes.
And one of the things I'm going to share right at this moment, it is so wonderful to hear somebody says, and I get to do.
Yeah.
That is so important for your languaging.
Yes.
You don't have to do, you should be doing, I get to do. That's one of the things that I really work on for myself and for my clients, is that you get to do it. It's a choice. You get to choose it. And I love the fact that you are doing that. And it's just such an important lesson. And I love when people have learned it.
Yes.
And that when I hear it in other people's voices, oh, I get to do that.
Yeah.
And I love when people, when I forget, and they're, hey, we've all been done it. The other day, one of my girlfriends, and it was like, ooh, we got to change that language. That was not a productive language.
We get to change that language.
We get to change that language. And it was like, and we called each other on it. And it was like, oh yeah, we get to change that. Not we need or we should or we could. We get to. We get to change how we think about that.
Yeah, because it's so like our subconscious mind truly doesn't know whether or not we've experienced something or not, which is why visualization is so impactful, but also the language that we use, right? That is like through that repetition, whether it's positive or negative, will become, you know, programmed in our mind. So I love that you pointed that out. It's now maybe something that's subconscious to me, or like I'm used to talking about in my work too, this language, but I got to go on that journey of training myself to do that. It didn't happen overnight, right? For people who are like still kind of stuck in this place of, you know, using the language that's familiar to them, like, yeah, absolutely. But now it's like, okay, yeah, these moments, maybe having a friend, right? Who you make this agreement, point it out to each other. Like, that is so cool that you're, you know, and we all do that, I think, in different ways, but maybe to have that agreement. I love that example because why not?
Yeah, it's almost like being accountable for each other. It's really awesome, because I always tell people words are powerful, be it positive or negative. You don't want the negative to be so much powerful over the positive. So that's why, you know, even when I hear myself say, well, I don't know if I can do that. And then I'm like, no, Barbara. And now some people look at me like, you're crazy, Barbara. You're talking to yourself. I'm like, no, I had to stop myself. I just said, I don't think I can do that. I need to stop that and say, I can try to do it, or I can get somebody to help me do it. Why am I saying I can't do that? That means I'm already putting a wall there of what I said I can't do. Now, some things I'll be like, hey, that's the expert. They can go do it, because I don't have time for that.
I don't even want to look at it. Absolutely.
There's someone else who can do this better than me, and do a great job. Yeah, and we get to do that.
But never say that you can't, because you can probably most of the time you can. You just decide either not to, or get the expert to come in, or what have you. But never stop yourself, because that's, to me, it's like a quick wall to yourself saying, okay, you just said you can't do it, so well, you know. I tell people, no, we can't do that. So I had to stop myself from doing that. So a lot of times, people might think I'm talking to myself a lot, like, Okay, Barbara, you just said this now. You say, no, don't say that. I said, yeah, because I just said something that I
Mhm.
put out there.
Yeah,
Exactly.
totally. I love that.
But Lauren, this is, you see, time always, Barbara. You do this. You bring the gifts here, Miss Lauren, and now it's time. The time is taken down.
We'll have to have her on again.
That gives us a reason to say, come back.
Yeah, anytime. I would love to. It's so fun.
But I want to make sure everybody gets your Linktree link here. If you want to reach out to this wonderful lady that inspired me already, just being on the show. I mean, I'm already like wanting you to be on one of my other shows already. It's already in my head. So I'm going to have to get with you on that because Barbara, I'm telling you, Barbara, you do it all the time.
Well, thank you.
Bringing these wonderful people on the show, and then they teach us so much. Lauren, you just taught me, first of all, vulnerability, being open to yourself, loving on yourself, making sure that you have a tribe, people around you that are in the same mind frame, because it's so important to grow, and just being who you are, which is just amazing. You're like, I always tell people, Barbara, I always hear me say this, you're a lighthouse to the world. We're all lighthouses to the world.
Right.
And you're one of those lighthouses. So thank you for always shining, as we say here on Time to Shine Show.
Yeah, absolutely.
So Miss Barbara, you know what you have to say, lady.
Because all of us are, I swear that everybody that comes on this show, they always say, oh yeah, that's a great mission. And we're on a mission. Barb and I have decided that we are on a mission to make happiness the norm rather than the exception. Because I truly believe, and we've talked about it so many times, I believe that each and every one of us deserves to lead that happy, healthy, debt-free, and abundant life. Well,
Yes.
sometimes we need to hear other people's version of what that means for them, because your version is yours.
Yeah.
But you need to find, what's your version?
Yeah.
Let's hear other people's versions of
Yeah.
what that is for them. And then you can pick and choose from the world. There's 7 billion people on this planet.
Yeah.
A lot of people.
Right?
Yeah.
Oh, it's so beautiful.
So we'll see everybody next Tuesday. And again, Lauren, you are always your family now. So always welcome back to come on so we can talk more and just get more of you. It was amazing today. And everybody, if you're thinking about coming on the show, Time to Shine Happy Show, I want to direct you to Mrs. Queen over here, Barbara Ellison. She will sign you up.
Let me know.
Yes, like I said, you give what people do best, and she does that best. So with that, please come on the show. We'll be so happy to have you. And as always, time to shine. Always make sure that you're shining and that you have happiness in your life, and make that choice. Make that choice first.
Absolutely. Bye, everybody.
Thank you.